Welcome back to another part in our bookkeeping accounting software tutorial, small accounts, which is what we've called it. If you've been following along from previous videos, then hopefully you're up to date with us and you can see this in your page. If not, then as in every video at the end of each tutorial, I'm going to upload the code that I've done and you will be able to get access to here from the Github repository. If you want to go to a particular video's point of save, shall we call it, then if you click on commits and then you can pick which one, and then I believe you browse the repository at this point. So if you want to go to part 3, for example, and you can go say, well, I want to go there and then follow along in part 4, then you download it from part 3 from the commit. I'm assuming you have a knowledge of Git to manage that locally to know how to do that. But if not, best thing to do is either start from the beginning or just pick up from where we are, from wherever you catch this series of videos, and follow along, or even just download the full repo and start from the beginning and see how the code's generated. Anyway, it's up to you, whatever works for you. But hopefully if you've got to this point, you'll be here now if you're following along. And what we've managed to do is install Tailwind as a CSS framework for styles. We put the Vue.js UI in, not for a complete front end, but just so that it gives us a few of the features we needed for the structure of the Laravel site, and also it allows us to put in some front end functionality as well, instead of say using jQuery or just vanilla JavaScript. So that's in place as well. So we've managed to create a nominal account model, migration, controller and view. And so here we have a list of nominal accounts. Now I say list, we've only inserted the one, which was sales, and this grey background we just put in just to test that the Tailwind CSS was working fine. So I think what we could do is perhaps to carry on with this video, let's put a few more nominal codes in. I think what we'd like to aim for is we'll get a list of nominal codes in no time. I mean, even with pagination, that's just going to take a few minutes. But I think what would be nice to try and achieve in this video is to get to the point of a trial balance. Now, if you've not got any accountancy or bookkeeping experience, you might not be sure what that is. But in essence, a trial balance is effectively just a list of all the different nominal accounts and with a sort of current balance against each one. And the idea is that if you add up all the balances together, it comes to 0. You don't normally see it like that. You normally see it in 2 columns, a debit and a credit column. And you add up one column, and the theory is that it should add up with the column on the other side, so you've got both the same figure. Technically one's a plus, one's a minus, the idea being that if you add the plus to the minus, it zeroes out, so you get a 0 figure. But anyway, that's what we're going to aim for. So let's start off by putting a few more nominal accounts in, and then what we'll do is we'll structure up the trial balance, but obviously that'll have 0 balances to start with. And then we'll look at how we can actually start populating that with actual numbers, actual values. I'm hoping to do that all in one video, but if not, we'll spread it out over 2. First thing then, let's put some more nominal accounts into the seeder, just so that we don't have to sort of manually add these each time. If we put them in the seeder, all we have to do is run the migrate command and we can just load them all up instantly, so it just makes it easier for us. So what we'll do, we've got sales, let's do purchases, we'll call that stock maybe, so name equals stock. I'm on an older keyboard today because my other one, the battery's packed in, so I'm going to blame my keyboard for any typos today. So then we've got expenses, so we could say what might be expenses? Rent. Just put rent in there for now. Let's put another expense in there just to make it varied. So let's say telephone. Okay, so that's our sort of ins and outs. Now we just also need to think about our assets and liabilities. So one we're going to have to put in is a bank balance. And Yeah. Sales, bank balance, stock, rent, telephone. Okay, let's leave it there for now. We probably have to enter a few more to make this fully work, and such as retain profits and stuff, but we'll come to that another time. For now, we've got some basic nominal accounts that we can use. So we'll save that. Let's run the migration again. Okay, so now we run this. Yeah. So we've got our different things in there. So let's just get rid of that grey. And while we're there, let's just see if we can just tidy it up a little bit more. So let's get rid of that grey. Okay, let's just, what can we do with this? I'll worry about the general page layout later on. I just want to make this look okay. I think for now, as long as it's in a column format, so we're going to have, this one's just a list. This one isn't the trial balance. So this is just a list of accounts. So we don't really need anything other than that at the minute. Maybe a link through to more information about it, but we'll come to that later. For now, that's fine. I'm happy that we've just got a list of accounts. Oh, we need to get rid of that example components as well. So where did I put that? Layouts app. Example component there. Okay, because we don't need that. There we go. Okay, so this is our list of accounts. So let's think about the trial balance. It's sort of very similar. Yeah, okay, so let's put a trial balance in. So we need to add a root first of all. So let's see, nominal accounts. Now, if we want to add any before the root resource, we have to, sorry, we want to add any along with the root resource, we have to add them before. So I'm going to put a get root to nominal accounts trial balance. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it under the nominal accounts header, because possibly it may go into its own sort of section, or maybe more to do with a reporting section. But for now, it'll do fine here. Okay, let's give that a name as well. So let's just see how that looks on the root. So let's make this a bit smaller. Hopefully you can still see this. Okay, so here's all the nominal account stuff. So the name should be nominal-accounts dot, and then whatever we're going to call it. So I reckon if we say nominal, nominal hyphen accounts slash dot trial hyphen balance. Does that sound about right? Nominal, so that's the name, yeah? URI name. Okay. I'm just not sure if I need to do that as a capital B instead of hyphen B. I'll leave it like that for now. I'll come back to that later. Might be able to leave it as it is. So the trial balance is very similar to the index really, except that we're going to show the balance values. So we've got our root, so that means we need to set up a method in the nominal accounts controller called trial balance. So let's go into the nominal accounts controller. Public function trial balance. Cool. And so yeah, we don't need to pass in any parameters for this one. Let's just, for now, let's just copy this. We'll modify it later as we need to. We'll just get all the nominal accounts, trial balance. Okay, so nominal accounts. So what we'll do is just copy this view, and we'll rename it to trial balance. So TRIAL_BALANCE trial balance. Yeah. Trial_balance.blade.php. Okay, so this should look the same as the index view. If we'll need to put a link to the trial balance as well, don't we? Let's do that after. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. It looks the same as the index page, which is fine. So what we can do, just to differentiate two, is let's just put another div in here. I need to put this auto completer on this. So class equals, let's say P6 PG, let's say grey 200 trial balance. So yeah, so we're on the trial balance, whereas when we were on the index page, it goes to the index page view. On the trial balance page, it goes to the trial balance view. That's fine. So let's structure up our trial balance. So it's very similar to the index page, as we said, but let's just sort of give ourselves a bit more room here. So for every nominal account on the trial balance, in fact, let's just see if we can Google some images. Format. There we go. Yeah. So we've got. So we have the nominal account name, and then we have the two columns for the balances, the debit and the credit. And as I say, these you probably can't see that. I'm trying to get a bigger image. There we go. That's a bit better, isn't it? So the idea is that the two columns of debits and credits balance up. Technically one's sort of a plus, one's a minus, so if you add the plus to a minus it equals 0, so that's sort of the ultimate balance. But for a trial balance you just basically want both columns to add, and we'll see how that goes through as we go through the transactions. But for now we just know we need three columns: the name of the nominal, the debit value and the credit value. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Okay, so we have a sort of an enclosing div, and then inside that let's think. So we want 3, so that's going to be a flex row, isn't it? So if we do div class, I'll tell you what, let's not do it. Let's put the divs in and then we can see why we need to make the change. So first thing, let's just put a div in here. And what we could probably do with actually is the 3 divs. Oh, I need to get that autocomplete on. Class equals flex. So this is going to be the 3 headers, so this is going to be a flex row. And then inside here we're going to have 3 divs. We've got nominal account, debit, and credit. Okay, so that's along that row. Now there is a way of making one of the items the maximum and the others are set width. So we can have the name really big and the debit and credit fixed, but I can't remember off the top of my head how to do that. So we'll come back to that. As long as we can see the information for now, that's fine. So we've got nominal account, debit and credit, and then we need to loop over each of the accounts, and we want to show the name, and then we need to put the what will be the debit and what will be the credit. Now, however, if you've any knowledge about how Laravel works, you'll know that although name exists in the database because we've set that up, debit and credit don't. So at the minute now, if we run this, we get an error saying debit and credit don't exist. So let's run that. Oh, we haven't got an error. It's just simply not even been bothered to tell anything. How strange. I did think that would give me an error. Let's see if an actual error occurs. Okay. No, okay. Well, I don't know whether I've got something in place to negate that error. So not sure, but I could have sworn that not having a field would have just shown an error. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But anyway, suffice to say, there's nothing there. There's no value in debit or credit. If I just put a pound sign before both of these, and then you can see them as placeholders. Oh, we need to. This is why we said about we need the flex row. But as you can see, the pound signs have gone in, but there's no values there. Let's sort out this row now, then. So we said we were going to put a flex row in here. So flex row. Okay, so they're all on the same row, but we need to space that out a bit more. Okay, we'll come back to that in a minute. I may need to do a little bit of a lookup on that. Anyway, so how do we get our debit and credit? So one way we can do this is to go through the list of all the transactions that we haven't yet generated but we will have, and add up all those values and produce them as part of the debit and the credit for each of these nominal accounts here. The other way of doing it is maybe as those transactions are created, we also update a running balance against the account. So for example, if we go to the database here, so against each name we could have a debit and a credit balance here, and it literally just outputs those there, and this debit and credit balance is made up every time a new transaction is added. You know, it's just updated with the latest figure. The downside to that is we've got a sort of a redundancy element to that, although it's easy because it means I just need to dump out 2 more fields. There's a redundancy element in that we're counting on the transactions when they're being entered, also updating this at the same time. Whereas if we're only using one source of truth, which is the transactions to generate our figures, then it means that they are going to be accurate at the time they're generated, but it might just take a little bit more processing to do it. And then obviously we have to modify our controller or our model to use that data and put it into a debit and a credit value so that we can output it. So, what am I thinking? Okay, we could actually do a halfway house here. So, what we could do is we could use a updated balance. So we could have a debit and credit value here. But that's only updated to a certain point in time. So let's say for example at midnight a background script runs and all transactions up to that point at midnight, it gets all the balances, updates the latest balance in here in the debit and the credit, so we have like a balance there. But then anything that happens within this current day, we could just add that on without updating this balance here. So that way you've always got an up-to-date balance up to the previous day, which you can use. But then if you want to add live balances, as in what's actually happened today, it's just a simple case of going through today's transactions as well. So I think that's probably the best way to do it, and we can mark the transactions as balance updated when they run, so that there's no duplication there as well, just to be sure. Although they'll be time stamped, we could just be doubly sure there and flag them as already included in the daily balance. I'm thinking that's probably the best way to go. So what that means is we can go to our migration, where are we? Nominal accounts, and we can add that debit and credit field. Obviously they're not strings, so they're going to be, now I use integer. This is something I've chosen to do. So rather than using like a decimal figure for pounds and pence, which obviously we're looking at this from a UK point of view, so we have pounds and pence, dollars and cents, euros, would all work fine here, although I'm not catering for that at the minute. So we're looking at pounds and pence, but what I've found to be more useful or easier to use is to convert it all to pence and then modify it to pounds accordingly. So that means we actually store all the values as integers of pence, whole pence, so we don't need to worry about fractions and decimals and so on. We can just use whole figures, and then you're going to see in a bit in the model we convert it to pounds when we get the money out, and we convert pounds back to pence when we make changes back in to the data. I just find this easier to use. It's a little bit more of a setup, but going forward for me it just seems to make a lot more sense. You may have a different way, and if you feel you'd rather go down the decimal or the float route, if that's something you're more familiar with, then fine, just alter your code accordingly as you go through. But we're going to do it as an integer of pence stored in the database. So there's our debit and credit. So for now we're just going to put a zero balance in there. So we go to our seeder. So for each of these we just need to put in a balance. Debit naught, credit naught. In fact, what I could have done is just sort of put I could have just put that actually, default naught. It's probably a better option. And then in the seeder I don't actually have to do anything. So let me just undo all that. Sorry if you're following along. Okay, so basically by doing it this way, it adds the name as it did, but obviously it's going to want to know, well, what am I doing with the debit field and the credit field? But our database structure says, well, if nothing's specified, just put a zero in there, which is fine. I'm happy to have zeros in there. So let's run this migration again. And now we should have zeros, pounds and zeros. Let's see if we can sort out this spacing issue. So what I'm going to do is go to Tailwind. Okay, so let's have a look at flex. I think it's flex grow we need to look at. So we put a flex in, and then we say flex none, flex grow. So that's the one we want for the name, is the grow. So I'm assuming yeah, see, that's the one that's getting bigger, the other two are staying the same, as you see that as I open it. So we want flex grow on the name and flex none on the other two. Okay, let's see if that works. So class equals flex grow, and then in these two we want class equals flex none. But I need to put a padding in there, don't I, really? To put a padding of 4. Put a padding of 4 in there as well. Let's see how that looks. Ooh, yeah, okay. So that's great. Looks like it's going to work fine. I wonder if we could give these a minimum width though. So if we say width I don't know, 32. Yeah. Right. I'm just going to give them a border so I can see where they are. Okay, so they're left aligned. Ideally we'd want them right aligned. So let's see if text right does that. Yeah. Now, in accounting terms, what we could do is move the pound over to the left, but I'm not that fussed for now. In fact, to be honest, I'm going to take them out. Because what I'm going to do is just put debit and just put it as an indicator here. And we don't have to put it on each one. So, ooh, I haven't spaced them out. Okay, so I need to put these with the same class. So dev flex flex row. So the name. Let's just check that's going to work. Okay, yeah, that looks like it's going to work. And let's just copy this class here. Oh, need to take the border out. And we'll put that in there and there. Yay, cool. Although I missed the box that we could do with lines underneath, but you know what, for now, fine, absolutely not a problem with that. So if we look at our database, so we have 5 nominal accounts, each with a debit and credit of 0. So for example, if I said, well, okay, let's just manually change the database for now. £100 we made in sales, and that went into the bank. £100, and there's our 2 figures. So at the minute it is in pounds and it's treating it as pounds, so we'll come back to that in a moment. In fact, what I'm going to do is put it as pence, and let's deal with that, because we also want to put a total in here as well. Okay, so let's deal with the converting pounds to pence. So what I'm going to do is create 2 functions in here in the model. One of them public function get debit. Actually, we're going to have to create 4, 2 for the debit and 2 for the credit. So with Laravel, you'll know that if you have get an attribute after a field name, or around a field name, it allows us to modify that value. So, do I put value in there? I can't. I'll have to look this up if this doesn't work. So basically what we're going to do is return. So we're getting this from the database and we're using it in the app. So we're going to be getting a value of 10,000 and we want to make it 100. So here we have to take the value and divide it by 100. So I think we just go value divided by 100. Let's see how that looks in here. So yeah, okay, so that's worked, because what's happened is they're both set to 10,000 in the database, but on the debit, on the get debit attribute, we put that function in and it's divided it by 100. So 10,000 pence has come through as £100. So that's brilliant. That's exactly what we want. So let's do the same for the credit. Okay, and so let me just check that works. Yes, that's smashing, super. So let's do our setting the values. So I've forgotten how to do the mutator. Oh, that's so bad. Let me have a quick look. Level mutations. Oh, mutator. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so defining the mutator. So it is just set with the value. Oh, okay. All right, let me just copy this. Totally forgot. Right, so set debit attribute. This attribute debit equals. Now, what we want to do is we're going to be getting a pounds and pence figure in the value. So £100, 50p, whatever. But we want to convert that into pence. So obviously we need to do the opposite for the get. So we need to multiply by 100. So it's as simple as that. Just to be sure that this has worked, what's the converter to integer? Is it str to int? No, okay, I'll leave it for now because I'm not sure what that is. Let me get rid of these. Set debit attribute. Okay, so we just need to set credit attribute. Set credit attribute value, credit. Okay, we won't see these in action just yet because we're not setting any values through code, but they are there. Okay, so we need to just format this out as a money format. Let me just see if, I don't know if Laravel has something like that. I know sometimes you have to do use the international option, which I don't really want to do. I just want to see if there's something. Oh, we could run a blade directive. Ooh. Ooh, now that's a good idea. I didn't want to jump too fast too soon, but you know what? That's not a bad idea. Let's copy this blade directive. Okay, so we need to go to the app providers, app service provider, and we can set that here. But what we'll do is we'll call it money, just to be a bit more explicit. And whatever we pass in there, it's going to format it according to the standard PHP format. Oh yeah, that makes it so much easier. So now, all being well, if I do, let's get rid of those, oops, and do at money for the debit. I don't know if this will work. Oh. Oh. Well, that's weird because I'm running locally. Oh. Class app provider. Ah, we didn't import the blade. So, where do we do that? Need to add that at the top. App service provider, use blade. Okay. Please work. Yay! Look at that. So our debit now has pounds and pence. Let's do the same with our credit. So get rid of the braces, do at money, and then wrap that inside. Okay, so that now should give us formatting. Well, that's excellent. This is looking really good. So the next thing we need to do is think about summing up the values here. So we could add them here in the for each, but I don't like putting that kind of logic within the template because we might need it elsewhere. And you know, if we, in fact, this whole trial balance generation of values lists with balances, we're probably going to have to take it out the controller eventually anyway. So I certainly don't want to put any logic in here. But we'll put it in the controller for now, and we'll move it out later into a model or you know a separate file, just so that it can be handled and it can be accessed. You know, we might want to use the trial balance generation in somewhere else in the site, maybe for some other purpose that might come in handy. But you know, that's probably not going to happen much with the trial balance. But if we think about that methodology for other functions that we're going to produce, make them in such a way that they can be accessed from all over the site, then it just means you're not duplicating your code everywhere. You know, you just got easy access to it. So, but for now, let's just let's put it in here. So how can we do that? So what I'm thinking is, is there a Laravel collection method? So a collection is just what the database queries return. They return a collection of items. They're very similar to an array, but they just have a bit more functionality to them. But the beauty of it is that there's a lot of built-in functions for them, so we should be able to maybe find something we can use to get a total. I'm not so sure because I've never done this. So we have a sum method. So that just adds up an array of values, but we've got an array of objects. Well, look at that. So if each of our nominal accounts has a name and something else and then has a debit, see, this has a pages, but the pages value are added together. So if we had debit, one for debit and one for credit, and then we just pass them into the view within the controller, this might just work. Let's try this. So if let's just copy that. This might work. I've never seen this before. So let's see. Sum debit equals collection sum debit sum credit sum credit equals collection sum credit. This might just work. I've never used this before, but quite excited if it works. So let's try it. Sum debit sum debit. I'll just copy that down. Some credit. So we're passing that into the view. Okay, so let's go into our trial balance view. So now after the loop, we want to do another flex row again. So let's copy that down, and then we want to close that off. And now we just want 3 divs. Actually, do you know what? Let's just copy them 3. However, the first column is going to be blank because that's now, we don't really need that. Now, as a matter of course, I just like to put in a non-breaking space into blank lines. It's just my convention. It just seems to help with formatting and styling and that. But you don't have to. In fact, maybe we won't. We might take that out if it turns out to be an issue, but I like to put a non-breaking space in. So in here, we can leave the money directive in, but now we're just doing some debit and some credit. Ooh, well, if this works, I'll be very happy, because I wasn't sure how I was going to do this. So hopefully at the bottom here now we're going to have 100 and 100 here. In fact, let's just make them bold. I think that's how you do bold. And go. No! What have I done wrong? So, undefined variable collection in the nominal accounts controller line 94. I think I know what I've done. Yes, I've left the default name collection in just because that was taken from the demo, but we actually need to pass in nominal accounts. Okay, try again. And yes, here we go, it works. So I hope you've seen what's happened there. We've itemized each of the nominal accounts here and given the debit and credit values along. But then in the controller we ran those two collection methods to get the totals of those, and then they are summed here at the end. And you can just see them in bold, just so they stand out. We can always style this up a bit more later on. No doubt we will. But for now, you can see that that has worked a treat, and that is good. So that means the first part of our trial balance is up and running. Let's see, how far have we been running? So we've been running about just over half an hour. Okay. Okay, let's end this video here, because what I want to do in the next video is introduce the whole new model of the nominal transaction. And the nominal transaction is what is going to alter the figures of the trial balance, and is essentially the actual recording of the history of the company's activities. So everything that happens in a financial setting inevitably ends up in one nominal transaction entry, and we can see how that relates to the nominal accounts which we've set up here. So thanks for watching, and see me in the next part when we'll go through that together.